Thanks for tuning in to the Lean 911 podcast, where you'll have a voice directly from the Gemba. I will rely on my 3 decades of Lean successes as well as my failures to answer your most challenging questions regarding your Lean transformation. I'm your host, Mark DeLuzio, President and CEO of Lean Horizons Consulting and the Principal Architect of the Danaher Business System. Looking forward to your questions. Now, let's go to the Gemba. Welcome to episode 50 for the Lean 911 podcast. Mark DeLuzio here. I can't believe that we've done 50 episodes so far. It's kind of amazing that we went this far. Seems like yesterday when we just started this. This episode, well, the name of the episode is How Do You Define a Defect? How do you define a defect in your company? What's considered a defect? Okay. Most times when I ask this question, the answer I get has to do with product specifications. It's when our product doesn't meet our product specifications. That's normally the answer I get when people think about defects. Now, by the way, you could meet product specifications, and in the customer eyes, could still be a defect. Have you thought about that? Think about that. How many times have you bought a product that didn't work the way it should have worked? But when you go back, the company says, "Well, that's exactly that's our product. That's what we do." It happens all the time, right? But I want to go beyond that. I want to expand our thinking as to what really is truly a defect. And if we don't change our mindset around the answer to this question, we'll continue to overstep and overlook true areas of opportunity in our company. Now, maybe from a broad perspective, a defect could be defined as any time either data, a physical product, information, whatever, does not go through the process smoothly the way the process is intended. That would be a defect. So notice I said service or information too, right? Now, what if you don't have a process? Now, I want to go back to one of the episodes earlier that I put together. It's called My 10 Rules of a Process. And that's in episode 25, if you want to go back and take a look at that. The first rule of a process is if it's not documented, you are not allowed to call it a process. Okay? So having no process to me is a definition of a defect. What is the defect of? I don't know. Is it a defect of management? Yeah, probably. But it's a defect. Right? So what other kind of defects could we be talking about? Now, here's some of the ones that I wrote down. And again, I think if you think about it from the respect that if it doesn't go through the way it's supposed to go through the first time, in whatever process we're talking about, I don't care if it's an accounting process, a sales process, an order entry process, a purchasing process, okay? If it doesn't go through correctly and timely, whatever that time frame is designed into that process, then it's a defect. If it's late, it's a defect, right? Remember this. When you ship bad product, when I say bad product, poor quality to a customer, they're not looking at you, and let's say it's on time. They're not looking at you saying, "Oh, well, they're really good at delivery, but their quality stinks." No, they're looking at you overall saying you're a bad quality supplier, whether it's bad quality for your product or because of long lead times and poor delivery performance. They're not breaking it down like we break it down internally, So, matter of fact, I had one company tell me one time that if we only, I forget the word they used, but it had to do with safety. And when they record safety, it has to be a pretty serious deal where you can't recover from the safety issue. So in other words, if you cut off your finger and you can't get that finger back, that's what goes into their records. If you just cut your finger, they don't really record it because that's going to heal. I swear to God, that company actually told me that. So I guess that cut finger is not considered a defect. All right. I would consider any safety issue a defect. All right. So expanding our thinking about what a defect is really, really important. I think from a quality perspective, we can probably argue we got that nailed as far as products go, but not necessarily about some other avenues in terms of quality. What about poor quality coming in on a sales order where the technical sales person did not understand the requirements of the customer? And we ended up, procuring materials that were wrong, building designs, and then actually floating a bunch of engineering change notices, ECNs, to correct those problems. Well, to me, you never write an ECN when things go right. You write an ECN to correct something. So an ECN is not only a defect, it's an incredible area of opportunity for you to go in and Pareto the reasons for those ECNs. Was it software? Was it supplier related? Was it a bad spec? Pareto it by sales. Maybe it's coming from the same three salespeople that are given it to, they're not trained maybe to pick up the right data from the company or ask the right questions of a potential client. Maybe it's a certain customer, maybe it's a certain product that's difficult. Okay, let's Pareto all these out and see what the issues really are. All right, and use ECNs as an opportunity for improvement. So I would count every ECN that gets written, and some may argue with me on that, but that says, okay, it's a defect. Nothing ever. ECN is never written when something goes right. I don't think anyway. Um, what about things like warranty? Warranty is a treasure chest again for future opportunity. Most people bring in warranty, put it aside. It's like, man, we don't have any infrastructure to deal with warranty. I was over in Japan once with Hitachi, and they said warranty information is like gold to them because it provides such great opportunity to make improvements. Okay. What about things like material review board, MRB? You bring in bad materials. Is that a defect? I had one company that their tooling at their supplier was so poor, everything failed incoming inspection. It all went to MRB, but then they passed it because they knew they had bad tooling. They gave variances to the supplier. When all these parts got into the particular product, all the stack up issues, the product didn't work and they had all kinds of defects instead of going back and investing in new tooling. Okay. So is MRB a defect? I'd say yes. Anything that has to go into MRB, which is Material Review Board, is a defect. Okay. What about when you miss your sales plan? What are the reasons for that? Is it because you couldn't ship? Was it because something to do with our sales force? A competitor took market share? I mean, how do you define a defect in terms of lost revenue? How about a lost quote? Why are we losing our quotes? Why is our win rate going from 30% down to 20%? And what's the reason? And how many customers are no longer asking us to quote to begin with? Okay, those are all defects. How about I'm just going through some examples here. How about in accounting? We have to reconcile the books. RE. Anytime you have an RE, that's a defect. I have to reconcile, rework, redo. There's a whole list of re's, ND's, like deburr. Is burring a defect? Is taking flashing off a part that came out of a cold form header a defect? Well, the flashing wasn't there to begin with, and you put it on. So I look at that as a defective operation. It's a rework operation. Okay. How do we expand ourselves to think about these defects. And why is it that the operating guy has to report on quality and the design guy's not there with him? Many quality problems, especially in more high-tech products, a lot of electronics, a lot of stack-up issues, are ill-defined, and we end up, replacing components until it passes the test. Those are all defects. All defects. So why don't I have the design guy there talking to management when the manufacturing guy is the one that's reporting on quality? Okay. Why isn't the head of sales with that manufacturing person talking about how they didn't generate the orders or their forecast was wrong? These are all defects. Forecast errors are defects. How about the same operating guy reporting on safety? Well, where's the safety director? Because maybe it's a process problem. Maybe we have no robust process to assure people all wear their PPE. They're all defects, all right? So expanding our thoughts on defects is really, really, really key, in my opinion. Now, once you do that, you're going to be faced with a million types of quote-unquote defects, right? Whether it be in accounting, that invoice didn't go through because we had a bad price in a purchase order, order entry didn't take because we had the wrong part number, all these kind of things, right? So what do you do with all this? You have to prioritize where you're going to focus. And you have to look at it from a number of different ways. I'm still a big fan of Pareto by Dr. Joseph Duran. I look at these problems, I could look at them based on cost. I could look at them based on impact to the customer. I could look at them based on the impact to my safety, quality, delivery, cost hierarchy, where safety, no matter how small, is always going to be a number one issue for me, even if 1 out of 200,000 people can get hurt. Okay. So we have to think through how we manage these things and how we attack them. But I would ask you to really think through how it is you and your company think about defects. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Please email me at mark@lean911.com. Mark, M-A-R-K, at lean911.com. Love to hear your thoughts. Love to hear your questions. And hopefully we can eliminate more defects from our lives to make our processes more sustainable, more repeatable, and that's going to turn into a huge boost on your respect for people, because nobody wants to live in a sea of defects. Expand your thinking. Love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, this was episode 50, and we are calling it, How Do You Define a Defect? See you next time. Thanks for listening to the Lean 911 podcast. I'll be happy to address your questions or feedback on future episodes. Email me at mark@lean911.com. You can check out our other episodes by visiting our website at lean911.com, our YouTube channel, wherever you listen to podcasts. This is your host, Mark DeLuzio. Thanks for listening.